Black goo full of unknown life oozing from a ship in Cleveland. A tiny red speck in the sky that could be the oldest galaxy ever. A tiny ancient fossil with organs still intact and signs of possible life on Mars. These are strange discoveries that left scientists completely confused. In September 2024, the research vessel RV Blue Heron was in a Cleveland shipyard for some routine repairs. While the crew was working on a noisy propeller shaft, they noticed something really strange. A black tar-like goo oozing out of the rudder post. It wasn't grease, it didn't smell like oil. When they tried to light it with a blowtorch, it didn't burn. Doug Ricketts, the marine superintendent at the Large Lakes Observatory, collected a sample and brought it back to the lab, asking, quote, "Think you guys could do anything with this?" Well, that question turned into one of the most surprising discoveries the team has seen. When they finally ran tests on the goo, they found it was full of life. Not just a few microbes, but a whole bunch of different kinds living in there. Some were types already known from tar pits or oil wells, but at least two of them were totally new to science. The goo turned out to be a tiny little ecosystem. The researchers are calling it Ship Goo 01, and they're still trying to figure out how it got there and how it survives. In 2025, the James Webb Space Telescope spotted something weird. Astronomers noticed a tiny red speck of light that didn't act like anything they'd seen before. They named it Capotauro, after an old Italian mountain, and tagged it as CEERS U100588. At first it looked like, just a faint blob sitting out there in the sky, but when they looked closer, its brightness and color was unusual. If it's what it looks like, this little speck could be a galaxy from just 90 million years after the Big Bang. That'd be way earlier than anything else we've ever confirmed. But it also might not even be a galaxy. Some think it could be a brown dwarf, basically a failed star floating somewhere in our own galaxy. Scientists still aren't sure. The telescope saw it in some infrared filters, but not in others, so it's kind of stuck in limbo. But this could be a really exciting discovery. This bizarre-looking creature was just recently discovered deep in the South American rainforest. Scientists led by entomologist Rudolf Schafran from the University of Florida came across a soldier termite with a head unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It's long and bulbous. It almost looks like a whale, so much so that researchers named it Cryptotermesis moby-dicki, a nod to Moby Dick, of course. What makes this termite so bizarre isn't just the size of its head, though. Its jaws are hidden far back, tucked inside the head, which gives it a completely different look from any termite species we've seen before. This species is now the 16th known member of the Cryptotermes genus in South America. For hundreds of years, people have looked at the moon and seen weird things happen on its surface. Sudden flashes, brief glows, faint color changes that last seconds to minutes. Astronomers call these events transient lunar phenomenon, or TLPs, and there are thousands of recorded sightings from all over the world, stretching back hundreds and hundreds of years. Some of the flashes are very quick, like a tiny burst of light that shows up for just a split second. Those are pretty well explained because the moon has no atmosphere. Small rocks and dust from space slam into its surface all the time, unlike on Earth where meteors burn up in the air. So these objects hit the moon directly at high speed and make a brief flash when they hit. Projects like NASA and the ESA's high-speed impact monitoring have actually caught hundreds of these flashes with cameras, but not all of these strange lights disappear instantly. Some glows last a minute or more, and scientists still don't have a perfect explanation for those. One idea is that tiny amounts of gas deep under the moon's crust occasionally escape through cracks, and when that gas interacts with sunlight or dust, it can create a faint glow that we can see from Earth. Even with modern telescopes and cameras, these flashes are unpredictable and hard to catch in real time, which makes them tricky to study. That's why, even in 2025, they're still a bit mysterious. Some are easy to explain, others are genuinely puzzling. Scientists just captured a really strange form of water in an experiment. It's like a solid and liquid at the same time. We all know that water turns into ice when it freezes, but deep inside giant planets like Uranus and Neptune, pressures and temperatures are so insane that water behaves a little differently. In experiments published in Nature Communications in December of 2025, researchers used the world's most powerful X-ray lasers and slammed tiny samples of water with shock waves, squeezing them to to about 1.8 million times the pressure we have on Earth and heating them up to thousands of degrees. Under those conditions, the oxygen atoms lock into a solid crystal, but the hydrogen atoms don't stay still. They flow around like liquid. It's like having a rigid scaffolding full of flowing water all at once. This form of water, sometimes called super-ionic water, had been predicted by computer models, but this is the clearest real-world evidence yet. And what's cool about this is that scientists think this strange water probably fills huge parts of Uranus and Neptune, and it might be part of why those planets have magnetic fields that don't look like Earth's at all. For decades, scientists have been confused about the Earth's inner core. Seismic waves from earthquakes didn't behave the way researchers would expect them to. The core should be solid iron, but the waves moved like something inside was a little bit soft or flowing. Nobody could figure out why. In 2025, a team of researchers in China tried to solve the mystery. They recreated the extreme conditions of the inner core in a lab, super high pressure and heat, similar to what's found 3,000 kilometers underground. They used a mix of iron and carbon and blasted it with shock waves. Instead of staying completely solid, the carbon atoms started moving through the iron like a liquid, while the iron stayed solid. This is called a super-ionic state. Again, it explains the weird seismic readings. The moving carbon makes the inner core softer to certain vibrations, exactly like what would happen with an earthquake. But the point is, we now know that the inner core of our planet isn't just solid iron like scientists previously thought. In July 2025, astronomers spotted a comet that wasn't from around here. It came from another star system entirely. They named it 3I Atlas, and it's only the third confirmed interstellar object to ever visit our solar system. At first, it looked like a normal comet, but then telescopes caught something strange. As the sun warmed up, it glowed bright green, a color caused by gases escaping from the surface. The cloud of gas surrounding 3I Atlas contains huge amounts of methanol, far more than what's normal for comets from our own solar system. That suggests it formed in a super cold, unusual environment around its original star. Because it's moving so fast and won't stick around, astronomers have only a brief window to study it. But every time scientists look at it, they learn a little more about how comets and planets can form around other stars, which might work totally differently than our own solar system. This tiny interstellar visitor can tell us a lot about what conditions are like billions of miles away. And because it's so unlike the comets we're used to, it's forcing researchers to rethink some of the stuff they thought they already knew about how these icy objects form. In 2025, paleontologists made an incredible find in China. A fossil of a tiny animal called a yauti, about the size of a poppy seed, that's roughly 520 million years old. Shockingly though, its internal organs were preserved, something you just almost never see in fossils this old. Using 3D scanning technology, researchers could see things like parts of its brain, its gut, even its basic circulatory system. Normally, stuff like that decays before it ever gets fossilized, so almost every fossil that old is just bones or shells. Studying it gives researchers a really rare look at how early animals were actually built on the inside, and that's pretty cool. In 2025, scientists pulled off one of the wildest rediscoveries in modern zoology. Deep in the forests of New Guinea, they found two marsupial species that were believed to have gone extinct around 6,000 years ago. One is the pygmy long-fingered possum, a tiny marsupial with a super long fourth finger that it uses to dig insect larvae out of logs. The other is the ring-tailed glider, a small tree dweller that glides between branches. Until now, both species were known only from fossils, and scientists figured it vanished at the end of the last ice age. On Mars, back in 2024, NASA's Perseverance rover made a discovery that had scientists genuinely excited. In Jezero Crater, an old river valley where water once flowed, the rover found a rock that contains organic compounds, the same kinds of molecules that make up the building blocks of life. Even more interesting, the way the chemicals are arranged in the rock looks a lot like patterns created by microbes on Earth, which is why researchers think it could be one of the clearest signs yet of possible ancient life on Mars. There's no proof anything lived there for sure, but it's a big hint. Scientists are hoping to bring samples back to Earth to study them more closely. The fact that this rock comes from a place where water used to be is a big deal too, because water is one of the most important ingredients for life. So this rock could end up being one of the closest things we've ever seen to actual life beyond Earth. That's been the video for today. I will catch you, yes you specifically, next time.